Okay, so I'm gonna say something that may be a little shocking. Californians are strange, and especially those of us in Southern California. There's just so many stereotypes about people from SoCal. There's the Valley girl with her bleach blonde hair, the Venice Beach surfer dude, and the people who put "the" in front of their highway numbers. Okay, well, that last one might not be as well known as the prior two, but for those of you transportation nerds who clicked on this video, it's a noteworthy addition. And if you're not from Southern California, you may not even know that we do this. For instance, if I were to give you driving directions from Burbank to Santa Monica, I'd tell you to first say goodbye to the next 2 hours of your life, and then just take the 134, merge onto the 101, and then take the 405 and hop on the 10 and you're there. Notice how it's not I-405 or I-10. Growing up in South Florida, I'd take I-75 often, maybe even just 75, but never the 75. Although, as a Californian, saying the 75 sounds right as rain, but it wouldn't in Tampa, Florida. Growing up in Colorado, I usually found myself on I-25, but never the 25. So what's going on here? Why do Californians put the in front of their highways? I promise, it's not for the sake of being different from the rest of the country. Well, maybe a little bit. Really though, there's actually an interesting story to uncover here. And it all starts with Southern California's early adoption of a freeway system. As I explored in my video not too long ago about America's first freeway, the Arroyo Seco Parkway, Southern California, particularly the greater Los Angeles area, created their own freeways decades before the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act of 1956 gave many U.S. cities their first highway or interstate routes. Los Angeles' roads, therefore, weren't connected to most national systems. They didn't exist yet, except in a few cases, including Route 66, which predated the interstate system. This meant that these Southern California highways were fitted with local names, often coming from where they went through or where they terminated. The Cahuenga Pass Freeway went through, well, the Cahuenga Pass. The Harbor Freeway took Angelinas from downtown LA to the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, aka the Harbor, and so on and so forth. The confusion came when the federal government began building cross-country U.S. highways, such as the famous Route 66 and the lesser famous U.S. Routes 40, 50, and 60, many of which terminated in California, naturally, and overlapped with existing routes, making it very difficult to follow for California drivers. For instance, for a time, the Arroyo Seco Parkway was all at once Route 6, 66, and 99, but numbers are more organized for city and state governments, especially given the rapid expansion of the state highway system during the 1950s and 60s. By 1964, two developments convinced Southern Californians to refer to freeways by number rather than name. In July of that same year, the state simplified its highway numbering system, ensuring that, with few exceptions, each freeway would only bear one route number. Around the same time, a flurry of new construction added unfamiliar freeway names to the region's roadmaps. As it turns out, drivers found it easier to learn the new numbers like the 605 or the 91 rather than the new names like the San Gabriel River Freeway or the Redondo Beach Freeway. Thus, existing freeways such as the Arroyo Seco Parkway just became the 110. The Hollywood Freeway became the 170, the Ventura Freeway became the 134, and the San Diego Freeway became the 405. But this slow and gradual transition from name to number isn't even really complete yet as of today. You'll still hear many Los Angeles radio stations refer to the 405 as the San Diego Freeway, or the 170 as the Hollywood Freeway. That's just how many people knew it for years and years and years. This is also the case for newspapers, web articles, and also people who lived in a time before numbered highways in Southern California. It's also still featured on many signs adorning the region's interstates and highways. And there's also another kink in this linguistic peculiarity. Here in Southern California, we apply this "the" rule to not only interstates and freeways, but also state routes and even regular boulevards in some cases. And this is where things get a little confusing and chaotic. But just stick with me here. Santa Monica Boulevard, which runs from the city of Santa Monica to the neighborhood of Silver Lake, is officially designated as California State Route 2. This route is referred to as Santa Monica Boulevard until its terminus in Silver Lake at Sunset Boulevard. However, Santa Monica Boulevard, aka California State Route 2, continues on to the 101 freeway until it spits out onto Alvarado Street in Echo Park, where it continues onto Glendale Boulevard and onto the former Glendale Freeway, referred to now as, you guessed it, the 2. So this is a case where a single road, California State Route 2, is referred to on the west side of Los Angeles just as Santa Monica Boulevard, but on the east side as the 2. Now this is due in part to the fact that the original plan for the 2 was to have one contiguous freeway running from East LA to the west side where Santa Monica Boulevard is now, but protests from residents of Silver Lake and Echo Park back in the 1960s prevented such a connection. This means that the freeway abruptly ends before it reaches Echo Park and continues on as a boulevard through the west side. A story for another time perhaps, but a fascinating one indeed, where, for once, NIMBYism was on the right side of history, depending on who you ask, of course. I also think it's worth mentioning some outliers to this "the" rule. California State Route 1 shares 3 names, equally used among Southern Californians. It's simultaneously Highway 1, The 1, and PCH, referring to its original name of the Pacific Coast Highway. But that's not all. This road stretches nearly the entire California coast, which means it actually has even more names depending on where you are in California. Those names include the Cabrillo Highway, the Shoreline Highway, the Coast Highway, and of course, the Pacific Coast Highway, aka PCH. Southern California has an extraordinary transportation history, and I look forward to exploring it more in depth in future videos. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on anything. I'll see you next week from 4th place.